Welcome to the One Take, Conversations with Global Mobility Leaders. Today, I'm happy to be joined by Audrey Lustgarten, Managing Partner of WR Global, the Global Immigration Office for WR Immigration. Welcome, Audrey.
Thanks so much, Lynn. Glad to be here.
So, immigration is always one of the biggest barriers to effectively getting employees to the right place at the right time to get the job done. And this has only become more challenging over the past couple of years. Today, we are going to discuss what trends are impacting immigration now, what we predict will impact immigration in the future, how governments are responding to these trends, and how companies should be preparing not only to break down the barriers of today, but to think about what's ahead. So, Audrey, let's first start with the trends. What are the biggest trends you are seeing in the world of immigration?
Yeah, I mean, as tired as everyone is of talking about it, the pandemic it continues to be a major trend in global immigration, really impacting, who can go where in the world and how our clients can get their, the key talent they need where they need it to be. Vaccine requirements continue to limit which employees can be sent on assignment to some countries. Canada comes to mind. That's a big one. It's incredibly difficult to get into Canada as a foreign national unless you're fully vaccinated. Testing and quarantine requirements, although we have seen these definitely ease on a global scale, they continue to exist in some key jurisdictions, particularly in the Asia Pacific region. And then just the everyday difficulty of traveling or moving and potentially becoming ill while in transit. That continues to have a major impact on global business travel worldwide. It's definitely a good time to have travel insurance these days. Another huge trend or theme in global immigration is conflict, particularly the conflict in Ukraine. Right away that led to a major exodus of employers trying to relocate their Ukrainian employees elsewhere in the world. A lot of that is starting to taper off, but we're still working to help companies that are trying to relocate their Russian employees elsewhere in the world away from the conflict. That's proven to be much more difficult. So it's taking a long time. I mean, it has been one of the heartwarming things in practice to see, companies supporting their Ukrainian employees. Some gave employees kind of the option to relocate to any other country where the company had an office. It just kind of opened it up. And that gave us a great opportunity at WR to support them because we cover global immigration into 100 countries worldwide. And we were able to kind of step up and offer a menu of choices. Usually when you're relocating from one country to the other, you know where you're going. But in a situation like that, where it was just any safe country, offering that menu of choices and being able to use Rapid, which is our centralized cloud-based case management software, to kind of track all of that and implement it and get people to safety was great. And then the third trend I would say is really labor shortages. I mean, that almost sounds a little silly to say in connection with immigration because it's not an immigration thing per se, but the really fierce global competition for talent has made it so important that companies be able to access the talent they need where they need it. And so that almost amplifies the impact of some of the immigration challenges that we are seeing these days. Some of the antiquated government policies that continue to limit access to the talent that our clients need. That has definitely been an ongoing challenge. And then we're seeing also employers are offering more perks, including immigration related perks, to talent that they want to bring on, the kind of remote work and the work from anywhere job perk is something that is definitely relevant and immigration related.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about the competition for talent and how governments are addressing this new world of work. Worldwide ERC recently released a survey showing that the world is hybrid and that while most employees are tied to an office, companies are starting to allow workers to relocate to many more locations and to really provide them the assistance they need to get there. But Audrey, let's talk about how are governments addressing this? You know, they had to jump in and respond to the pandemic and the war, but they've also had many years to think about new forms of work, whether it's gig work, new types of employment contracts, work from anywhere, nomad visas. So, what are governments doing about this? What are you seeing in terms of how they're thinking about the future and how they're responding to these challenges and opportunities?
Yeah, well, some have really risen to the challenge and used this time and this shift, this business shift to flexible work or hybrid work to revise their immigration policies and to start offering new flexible visa and permit options. You know, we saw it start with kind of during the pandemic with the tourist destination countries, you know, the tropical islands offering digital nomad visas to make up for lost tourism revenue really is what I think pushed them to be at the forefront of this. But that is continuing to spread as it becomes apparent that this kind of flexible or hybrid approach to work is here to stay. And it's just a business reality these days. So more and more countries are looking to, you know, develop digital nomad visas or flexible, you know, self-employment visas, things like that. You know, we're seeing now, you know, coming pretty soon, hopefully, in Spain, Portugal, you know, other countries beyond just those traditional, you know, tropical islands that might come to mind as the first ones to implement digital nomad visas. And this is a really positive development for employers, you know, allowing them to provide these options. You know, in the past, it was very rigid. Most immigration laws were centered on having, you know, a company physically located in that country to sponsor the worker and the worker coming into a physical work site. And that's just not the case in some of these countries that have seized the moment and have adapted their policies and offered new options. Not all countries, of course, are doing this. Unfortunately, we still
Yeah.
have many countries that have these antiquated policies. You know, they're really trying to deny or resist the work from anywhere trend. They're still requiring, you know, that you have a company in that country where the employee wants to work to sponsor them. Still, you know, requiring us to list a physical work site on applications. And so for those countries, it's kind of the work from anywhere is a no-go for companies that are choosing to be compliant with the immigration rules, which can be very frustrating for the company and very frustrating for their employees. Not to mention costly. I mean, a lot of companies would do away with physical office space altogether if they didn't have to have it. But immigration can actually hold them back from doing that.
Yes. So Audrey, knowing that governments can be slow to act, what can companies and specifically global mobility professionals do to help deal with all the uncertainties and changes in the world of work?
Yeah, great question. I think that there are really kind of four things that I tell my clients to consider when they're facing these challenges and figuring out what their response can be. One would be, you know, developing systems and policies to deal with the inevitable changes, and particularly with this kind of work from anywhere type requests that the companies get from employees. You know, I think the assumption on the employee side is that they can just go anywhere these days, and the companies who have been able to deal with this challenge most effectively are those who have proactively sought to educate their employees about the challenges related to remote work, and they've come up with policies to navigate these challenges and say, you know, where can you go? You know, the second thing would be consider providing a menu of the available remote work locations. So instead of leaving it wide open for employees to work from anywhere and that leading to legal compliance troubles, you know, give a menu of countries that have these kind of digital nomad or other flexible visa types that are easily available. Another common theme of a successful policy is, you know, limiting who is or laying out the criteria for who can take advantage of this, almost using it as a perk. You know, so if you've been with the company 6 months or a year or 2 years, for example, you can work from anywhere for a month or 2 months or whatever it may be. There's a lot of different forms that it takes. But that way the company is remaining in control of the menu of options of who can take advantage of them. Um, the the third thing is kind of, we always tell people to consider taking advantage of this remote work culture to actually avoid placing employees in countries that have antiquated systems. I mean, now that people can, from a practical perspective, get on a Zoom from anywhere, work from anywhere, um, flip that and make it work to your advantage so that you're not having to deal with these really impossible countries who haven't updated their immigration rules in years and years. And then finally, where flexibility in location isn't possible for business reasons, for instance, make sure to engage in strategic planning to work around the problematic government system. And here's where, of course, having good legal counsel to help walk you through the options and think strategically, and then technology to go along with it is really key to success. We use our rapid system to help companies map out, what are the options, where in the world can their employees go, and then to track the progress and hopefully lead to a good result despite the antiquated systems we're facing.
Technology is certainly key, and I think we've all learned just how critical it is to know where all our employees are at any given moment, and you can't do that without great technology. I also want to mention, as we discuss what we can do to influence governments, that Worldwide ERC has an immigration policy forum that is actively working on these issues. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, Audrey. It's also interesting that you mentioned companies are using work from anywhere as a perk. Are there any concerns about discrimination in terms of treating employees differently based on the immigration benefits you'll give to them, or based on their performance or role within the company?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would need to be careful so that the policies are, designed and implemented equitably. But I don't think it's an issue if it is based on merit or tenure with the company or something that is, objective and measurable and not having a discriminatory impact. But that is something to think about and something to monitor, as they're designing and implementing these programs.
Good. Well, Audrey, are there any last comments you'd like to make before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I think that really it's so important that companies are, aware of the changes and that they take a proactive approach to addressing these changes, whether it's changes due to the pandemic, changes due to labor shortages, or to conflicts such as the conflict in Ukraine. We just always really encourage our clients to take a proactive approach. These changes are here to stay. There will be additional challenges coming down the pike, and just working with counsel who's able to help them take a look at those changes and see how they can work around them to still get the people that they need where they need them in the world in a timely basis. And I think it's very important, as I mentioned before, for them to have policies that address this before the issues come up. And then I think technology is another really key aspect of it. Having a technology, whether it's, WR has our rapid technology, which is really fantastic and helps companies to keep track of what's going on, where in the world their people are, what the opportunities are, or if companies have, their own technologies, but just embracing the changes, having policies, having systems, having technologies to support them so that they can focus on their business objectives and have the talent they need where they need it in the world.
Audrey, thank you so much for your insights today, and I look forward to continuing this conversation and going even deeper and into all the challenges and opportunities at the Global Workforce Symposium. I'll see you there.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Lynn.